Welcome back to Movies Explained. Today's film is an action-adventure from 2017 titled The Mountains Between Us. When Alex arrives at the airport in Idaho, she discovers that her flight to Denver has been canceled, and she may miss her own wedding. Nervous and frustrated, she overhears that Ben's flight has been canceled as well. Ben is a doctor who has to perform surgery on a 10-year-old boy in Denver. Alex proposes to Ben that they hire a private plane to fly them both to Denver. They walk over to a nearby hangar where they meet Walter, who agrees to fly them to Denver for $800. As they board the small plane, Alex asks Walter whether he has filed the flight plan, to which Walter responds that there is no need because there is still light outside. Ben doesn't seem too comfortable with that and asks Walter about the storm, but Walter, a cocky Vietnam War veteran, assures Ben that as long as no one is shooting at them, they'll be fine. On the plane, they get to know each other. Ben tells Alex that he's from Baltimore but was born in London. He asks Alex what brought her to Idaho, and she says she was there to shoot skinheads, which confuses Ben. So Alex explains that she's a journalist for The Guardian, and she was in Idaho photographing neo-Nazis. The plane is experiencing turbulence, so Walter instructs them to buckle up. While they're strapped in, Alex notices the dark clouds in the distance and calls Walter's attention to them. Walter tells them that the storm must have moved and gets on the radio to make contact. Ben notices Walter having difficulty speaking and rushes to the front, where he realizes Walter is having a stroke. Alex leaps forward, and together they try to save Walter while also holding the plane up. But the plane is rapidly losing altitude, and the tail of the plane is severed as it hits a mountaintop, and the plane begins to descend rapidly. They return to their seats and brace for the impact. Ben regains consciousness and immediately looks around to see if everyone is okay. Alex is unconscious, but she is still alive, and she has a massive laceration on her leg. Ben tends to her wound and covers her with a jacket before going in search of Walter, only to discover that he didn't make it. However, as he looks at Walter, he notices that Walter's dog is still alive and is laying next to Walter. It's freezing cold in the plane. Ben starts a small fire and passes out. He wakes up in the morning and begins shouting to attract the attention of someone, but quickly realizes that they are in the middle of nowhere. As the sad little dog watches, he drags Walter's body from the plane and buries him in the snow. At night, Alex regains consciousness, and Ben informs her that the pilot is dead and that they have been down for 36 hours. He also informs her that they have a small amount of food that should last them until help arrives. Ben notices an airplane in the sky. He rushes to grab the flare gun and fires, but the gun does not go off. He quickly replaces the flare and fires successfully into the sky, but the plane simply passes by. Ben asks Alex if she informed her fiancé that she would be flying a charter plane, to which she responds that she did not, and that she simply wanted to prove to her fiancé that she was capable of finding a solution. Ben informs her that he too did not notify anyone about his private flight. In the morning, Alex tells Ben that it's been 3 days and no help has arrived and that he should go looking for help because they don't have any more food. She hands him her camera and instructs him to use the zoom feature on his journey to see what's in the distance. Ben begins his journey by hiking up a mountain and looking through the camera. All he sees are never-ending mountains in the distance. While he is gone, Alex listens to Ben's recorder and hears a message from his wife and discovers that she left Ben. As he continues his journey down the mountain, Ben falls and begins sliding down the mountain and stops at the edge of the cliff. Back in the plane, Alex hears some noise and believes Ben has returned. However, as she calls his name, she realizes there is a cougar walking on and around the plane. The dog begins barking, and Alex tries to keep her quiet, but she runs outside and is attacked by the cougar. As this terrifying beast approaches Alex, she fires the flare gun directly into its face, and the cougar quickly flees howling. Ben was heading back to the plane and hears the noise in the distance and starts running back. As he arrives, he sees that the dog has been bitten in the neck. Alex tells him about the cougar, and Ben begins stitching up the dog's neck. In the morning, Ben discovers the cougar's body and prepares a small BBQ for them. As they eat, He tells Alex that they should have enough food for 10 days, but Alex refuses to wait because she doesn't believe help will arrive, and they begin arguing because Ben believes the right thing to do is wait. He believes they will come searching for them. He wakes up in the morning to find Alex gone. After sitting for a few hours, he decides to go after her. On the way, he discovers the plane's beacon has been smashed into pieces, indicating that no one is looking for them. Hours later, he finally catches up with her and asks her why she left without saying anything. They find a cave after hours of hiking and decide to take shelter and spend the night inside. Ben apologizes to Alex around the fire and tells her she was right to keep moving, as well as about the smashed beacon he saw on the way. Alex looks through the camera in the morning and notices a reflection in the distance. She shows Ben, and they agree to hike down and investigate. After several hours of walking, they come to a river they cannot cross, so they decide to camp for the night. Ben checks his phone for reception and sees that it still doesn't have any, so he turns it off to save the battery. But Alex remembers that he was listening to a nice song at the airport and begs Ben to use only 1% of the battery life to play that song, which Ben does. And the sounds of piano and violin relax Alex to sleep. The next day, they continue their journey. A few hours later, they stop to rest, and Alex tells Ben that her body is getting used to the cold. Ben explains that her body is acclimating to the cold and how the human body adjusts to its surroundings. Ben cuts the conversation short to go look for the dog. As he runs after the dog, he discovers a cabin. He rushes back to get Alex. As he gets close, he sees Alex fall through the ice and into a lake that they apparently didn't realize they were on top of. He quickly pulls her out and rushes her into the cabin and starts a fire to warm her up. Alex is unconscious but alive. Ben lets her warm up while inspecting the cabin and discovering nothing but a few cans of soup. Alex regains consciousness after being passed out for a few days. Seeing that she is indoors, she thinks they have been saved. But Ben explains that they are in the cabin that they had spotted from up the mountain. They spend the night debating their options. Ben wants to stay in the cabin until the snow melts. But Alex reminds him that all they have are 2 cans of soup, which will not last long. Ben goes out to look around the cabin in the morning while chopping down some firewood. He sees the dog chasing down a rabbit. He runs excited only to see that their dinner has gotten away. As he returns to the cabin, he catches Alex listening to his recorder. Ben is upset, but she apologizes and tells him that she is trying to get to know him. He tells her that he hasn't heard that recording in 3 years. As he begins heading out to collect more firewood, Alex gives him a kiss, and they end up sleeping together. When they wake up, Ben tells her that his wife did not abandon him as she thinks. She developed a brain tumor and died. Her name was Sarah, and they had been married for 8 years. Ben leaves the cabin to seek help, but is unable to leave Alex alone, so he returns to get her, and they continue their journey together. After hours of walking in the freezing cold, they become exhausted and fall asleep under a tree. Ben is awakened by the dog's barking. He notices a lumber mill in the distance. He wakes up Alex and they begin walking toward the mill. They don't get far before Ben notices the dog has gone missing, and as he goes to look for him, his foot becomes entangled in a bear trap. Alex rushes to help but realizes she won't be able to open the trap. Ben tells her to leave him and go seek help. Alex struggles through the snow and eventually makes it to the lumber mill. She sees a truck approaching. She starts waving, and as the truck gets close, she collapses and passes out. When Ben regains consciousness and realizes he's in a hospital, he rushes to find Alex. He stares at Alex, unable to believe they made it. During their conversation, Alex's fiancé Mark walks in and thanks Ben for saving her life, but Ben insists that it was Alex who saved his life. Ben stands in his hospital room, tears of joy streaming down his cheeks, staring out the window. He returns to his life and job in South London, where he adopts Walter's dog. Mark threw a welcome back party for Alex, but she is still in shock and is unable to interact with any of the guests. She can't stop thinking about Ben. Later, she calls him, but he declines her call. Later, Mark is speaking to Alex, but she is zoned out and not paying attention. She apologizes, and Mark tells her about a promise he made to himself, that he would love her unconditionally, even if she returned home missing a piece of herself. Alex eventually decides to develop the camera's images and send them to Ben. When Ben receives them, he calls Alex, and the two agree to meet at a restaurant. They both talk about how they're doing. Ben tells her that he has stopped performing surgeries. He asks Alex how the wedding went. She tells him that she couldn't go ahead with the wedding and that she wanted to tell him, but he never returned her calls. Ben explains that he didn't answer her calls because he assumed she was married. Alex tells Ben that she loved him in the moment they made love and that nothing was the same after they returned home. She tells him that after she left Mark, she tried to persuade herself that what happened between her and Ben was not serious. As they leave the restaurant, Ben tells her that they survived because they fell in love. Ben gives her a long hug and they begin walking away, both visibly sad and heartbroken, but unable to leave each other. After a few seconds, they start running back to each other and end up in each other's arms. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos.